So here recently, I was scrolling through Reddit and I came across this post in r/self-hosted from somebody who was looking for a tool to collect URLs. And the first response down here was LinkedIn. And there were several people saying, hey, this is what I use. This is great. And so I installed it and I got this. And this is fine, I guess, but ultimately I didn't like it. So luckily, when I came back over to here onto Reddit and scrolled down a little further, there was somebody here, this Keys PPC, said, I use LinkAce. So I checked it out and installed it, and I like this so much more. So in this video, I will show you how to install LinkAce in Docker. But first, a quick message from today's video sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Linode, the largest independent cloud computing provider. If you don't want to, or can't for whatever reason, self-host applications the way we talk about on this channel, Linode provides virtual servers that make it easy and affordable for you to host anything in the cloud. You can set up any of the applications that they have available in their marketplace with just a few clicks, or you can set up your own Docker VPS and install basically whatever you'd like in a Docker container. They have load balancers and firewalls available to help keep your apps online and safe. If you run into any trouble getting set up, Linode comes with amazing 24/7 customer support by phone or ticket, along with hundreds of guides and tutorials to help you get started. Sign up today at linode.com/dvtech and get a $100 60-day credit on your new Linode account. Links are in the description. So let's take a quick spin through LinkAce here that I've got installed. Here we can see that I am logged in and there are some recent links that have been added. There are also recent lists that I've added. So if I wanted to have, like it shows here, all of my social accounts listed in one area, I could absolutely do that. Then I could click there and edit that, change things, add notes, things like that. Or actually, while we're still in there, we can edit this, we can delete it. We can actually link. We can actually check it out on the Wayback Machine. There's not going to be anything in here because this is a relatively new social media account, but you can find out what is going on with Wayback Machine on any particular URL. You can add tags. You have to edit and then add tags. You can add notes if you wanted to do that. You can make the notes private and then click Add Note. But if we come back to the homepage here, this is just kind of like I said, recent. Over here on the right side, they've got statistics for total links, total list, total tags, total notes, and broken links. This will actually, if you set it up on a cron job, will check for broken links and things like that, and then notify you of those broken links via the dashboard here. So this is just what we would call the homepage for this Docker container for LinkAce, more generally speaking. If we come over here and click on all links, then we get a list of, well, all of the links. And here you can see at the bottom, they're paginated, so you can, kind of scroll through here and find what you're looking for or whatever. Or if you wanted to, of course, you could search right up here at the top. Let's just do a search for Twitter and click search. And here we can see that there are some different things in here with Twitter in the title or the URL or whatever the case is. And if I click that, then of course it drops here right over to here. I will say this is my new Twitter account. I wanted to finally separate my personal stuff from my YouTube stuff. And so if you haven't already, definitely check out this Twitter account. I will have that linked in the description down below if you want to follow that. So let's jump back over to here. This is LinkedIn. We're going to get rid of that. We're not going to take a look at any more of that. But again, that's kind of how the search function here works. Again, so if you wanted to add a link, you could absolutely do that. Here, you can put in the URL, the title, you can put all of this information in, decide whether or not you want it to be public or private. And then once you fill all of this out, if you want to add multiple links, you can then click on add link, and it will just basically reload this page so that you can add more links to this without having to go through multiple steps to get to this page. Like I mentioned, we do also have lists that we can create lists over here. We can click on add, and then we could just say, GitHub, if we wanted to do that, and click on add list. And then I guess we can come back to all of our links. Let's try something here that I actually haven't tried yet. Let's type in GitHub and do a search. I wanted to see if there was maybe a way in here to mass add links or URLs, whatever, to a list from here, but it doesn't look like they're able to do that. So one other thing you may notice here is, as I mentioned, that I had started looking through this just here recently, and in fact, this post is only 3 days old. So how is it that I've got stuff that's added a year ago, 8 months ago, 4 months ago, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Well, what's actually kind of cool about this, if we come up here to the top, we can come over here to import, choose a file, and then I've got this bookmarks file right here that I actually exported from my browser. So with most browsers, when you export your bookmarks, it will export an HTML file, and that's what this importer is looking for. Right up here, like it says, usually bookmarks are exported into an HTML file by your browser. So go ahead and just import that. So I went ahead and clicked import. I selected this and I clicked start import. Now, depending on how big your exported HTML file is, it will depend, that will dictate how long it takes to import. Obviously, bigger files are going to take longer to import because it's also going to do some stuff in the background to make sure that everything is where you want it to be. So then once you've done your import and you come back to all links, then you'll see something like this. And of course, then it will actually pull in this metadata as far as when it was that you actually imported or when you saved that bookmark into your browser, given your browser supports metadata like that. So like I mentioned, these also have the ability to have tags in them. You can come down here and look at tags. Some of these were added automatically. Some of these I added, but basically you can actually sort things by tags as well. So I really do dig that they've got that ability built in here. And I really, honestly, I think that's kind of it for the front end of this. Let's take a quick look up here. If we go up to where my username is, and then we can click on settings, and then we can add a bookmarklet. So basically, oops, you could then take this and just drag it up into your bookmark toolbar up here, and then any website that you go to, you want to save it for later, you can just click this. In fact, let's do the google.com, and we'll click bookmarklet. And then, hey, then this little window pops up and lets you fill in the blanks however you'd like to do that. We click on add a link right there. And click open LinkAce. Right there is that Google link that we just added. So kind of a cool little deal where you can add that to your bookmark bar for easy access and easy storage of URLs for later. If we come down a little further, let's go to settings again. There's an API token that we can generate here. Now, what's cool about this API token is that we can use this to set up a cron job so that the system can then go out and check links for us, find broken links, things like that, and then put all of that information in our logs over here in our system logs, as well as give us notifications for broken links. So if it finds broken links, it will put them here so that we can modify them, edit them, delete them, whatever the case happens to be. So let's come back up here to where my username is. We've taken, I think, a look at all of the settings here. Maybe not. So account settings, our username, our password, we can change our password. We can enable two-factor authentication, which if you're going to put this on a URL, a public-facing URL, I absolutely encourage you to enable two-factor authentication. Below that, we've got some more information that we can change, or some more stuff we can change for language, time zone. I were to just scroll down, that's too far. Come on, there you are, right there. All right, so date format, we can change this because you know how we Americans are, we like to do things wrong. So here is the American format. Also the time, if you wanted to do 24-hour time or military time, like some people call it, you could do that. You could also just switch it so that it would show AM and PM. So here on the number of items in lists, basically if we take a look over here and take a look at lists, we can show how many, or we can dictate how many will show in that list before it starts to paginate. So next we can, if we come down a little further, open external links in new tabs. I actually like being able to do that. So I'm going to set that to yes. Enable Markdown for description and notes. If you want to do that, you absolutely can. I'm not a big fan of Markdown. I never learned it. I probably should, but you can enable Markdown if you want to do that. You can display the links with details or cards with fewer details or less details, lists, you got all kinds of options there as well. In fact, let's switch that to cards just to see how that looks later. Wayback Machine backups, you can enable that if you want to. It says if enabled, non-private links will be saved by the Internet Archive. So you got that option as well. Enable backups for private links. Probably best to set that to no, but that's up to you, I suppose. Under privacy, it says private links by default. So basically, when you save a new link, do you want it to automatically be private, or do you want to manually change it to private at your discretion? You can toggle that yes or no. Notes, should they be private by default? Yes or no. Or should lists be private, or should tags be private by default? You can change those accordingly for your setup. And then dark mode down here, we can, I prefer dark mode, but you could dictate how you want your dark mode to run there. And then if you do If you save a bookmark under any of these services, it will automatically pull up or insert the little icon next to it, so it's easier to recognize as you're sifting through your links. And then, of course, once you're done making all of those changes, you can come down here and click Save Setting. Okay, so now we've gone ahead and taken a look at all of kind of the account settings for a user. The next thing we want to do is actually come up here, back up here to the top, and take a look at System Settings up here. So basically, here you've got the version right up here at the top. There are no updates found. That's good. That means we've got the newest version available. Below that, we've got a cron token. You will need this, again, if you wanted to run a cron job. And in fact, it will tell you right down here where to point your cron job URL. So if you're going to set up a cron on your local system, you could absolutely use this IP address. Of course, it's going to look different on your system, but this is the cron URL that you would use in order to have it go out and check for broken links, do those sorts of things. Down here, we've got some more system settings for page title. If we wanted to change the page title, we could do db tech links. Do you want to enable guest access? Yes or no? That's all up to you. If you want people to just be able to come and look at your links, then you could set that to yes. If you want it to be private, you could leave this set as no. So this custom header content is great for if you wanted to put like analytics code on your site or something like that. You could put all of that, right in there. Like it says, it will place content entered here will be placed right before the closing head tag on all of the sites or on their site. So that's what that is there for. Guest settings, again, how many items in list, display links with as many details as possible. You can kind of customize the guest settings if you've got guest set up here. And then dark mode, again, you can change that however you'd like to change that. And then we can go ahead and click on settings and then it did not, so you will also want to links and then click Save Settings there, and here we go. Now you can take a look up there. I didn't even pay attention to that. So each of these setting areas will have their own save function for that form. So the last thing we want to take a look at before we get into how to install this is to come up here and click on Export. And then right here, it says running the export will save all existing bookmarks into a regular bookmarks compatible file or a CSV file if you want. So you can choose how you want to export that. And that way, if you wanted to send it to somebody, import it somewhere else, you can always do that using the export feature right there. So now we've taken a look at how to administer LinkAce both via a user perspective as well as an admin perspective. So let's go ahead and jump over and take a look at how to install LinkAce in Docker. Okay, so here we are on my desktop, and the first thing we've got to do, of course, is get logged into our server. So let's go ahead and do that real quick, like so. And then let's clear our screen, and then we'll do cd into home. And then ls, and here you can see all of the different things that I've been messing with on my Docker server recently. So the first thing I want to do is actually, we're going to make a directory. We're going to call this LinkAce, and then we're also going to do a cd into LinkAce, like so, and then there we go. So there's nothing in this folder as of yet because we just created it. So we're going to create two different files in here. The first file we're going to do, or we're going to create, is a docker compose.yml. And the second file will be a .env file. So we're going to need those two files in order to deploy this container setup for LinkAce. Okay, so let's go ahead and modify our docker compose.yml file that we ran the touch command to create. I'm just going to go ahead and paste this in. Of course, this will always be linked in the description down below. So let's scroll back up. So we're going to have a version 3 Docker Compose. Our first service, there'll be a couple of services we're going to run here. The first one will be a database. It'll be Maria database version 10.5. We'll restart it unless stopped. There's a MySQL command to just kind of make sure that we've got the right configuration for our database. Below that, we've got some connection variables for the database. All of that will be stored in the .env file that we'll take a look at once we're done modifying this. Below that, we're going to store the database in a volume. Now, you could absolutely map this to a path, like a shared folder if you wanted to do that, like so. We'll just store it in there. And then below that, we've got another container that we're going to take a look at. Will actually be the LinkAce official container here. This is the simple version. They do have a couple of different versions, but let's just keep things simple for the sake of what we're doing here. Below that, we're going to restart unless stopped. It depends on the database container as shown above. By default, it wants to run on port 80. So let's change that to like 87. And then our volumes, we've got a couple of volumes here that we're going to take a look at. Let's scroll down just a little bit. There we go. So we're going to map this .env file in the directory. So that's where that's going to live. And then below that, we've got LinkAce logs, and that's just where it will store logs for us. It's pretty simple there. So what I want to do actually is, because we changed the volume for the database, I want to go ahead, and just remove those 2 lines. Okay, so after waiting a while and nothing happening, I realized that some of the stuff I showed you was wrong. So let's go back and take a look at that just real quick. Let's actually come into here into Docker compose.yml. We're going to scroll down. I changed the volume back to, for the database, I changed that back to DB, and then added that back down into here. And then also, this was like 0.0.0.0, port 85 or 80 originally. Oops, like so. I changed it to 85, and I deleted all of this. So basically, I changed the port line here, and I changed the volume for the database. What I showed originally was wrong. So ignore that. I will have that changed by the time you guys see this video. So I'm going to go ahead and do Control-O to save, and then Enter, and then Control-X. And then we'll do nano.env, like so. So again, we're going to go ahead and just paste this .env file container stuff in here. We'll scroll back up to the top. So if we take a look here, we can see that we've got an app name of LinkAce. Our Compose project is also called LinkAce. Your app URL, you could change that if you wanted to. I haven't seen a need to, but if you do run into an issue exposing this via a reverse proxy, you may want to change this to make sure that your cron URLs and things like that change appropriately. Below that, we've got app environment is going to be production. The app key, don't worry about that. We're going to deal with that here in just a little bit. App debug, you could set this to true if you were having issues. Force HTTPS, again, if you were going to run this on a domain name, I would switch this to yes. However, if you're using Nginx Proxy Manager or Traffic in conjunction with Cloudflare, both of those will also force HTTPS. So this one's kind of a moot point in all reality, but just to have a little extra security, you should probably change that. Setup complete, this will be handled by the system. Session lifetime, you can set this is like it says here, set default for 7 days. And if we scroll down, we've got some backup stuff if we wanted to do that. And then of course you would want to go ahead and fill in all of the information below for setup notification email. Obviously, if you wanted to use backup, you would change that to true. And then you can kind of go through here and configure all of your AWS stuff if you wanted to use that for backup. You've got a mail configuration set up here for sending mail from your container. Of course, I like to use just a dedicated Gmail address for this kind of stuff. So definitely you could put all of that information in here and be sure to get emails for password resets or notifications, things like that. Below that, we've got some MySQL database stuff. And this is basically the only thing you need to change. And that is so that you can change the secure password right here for the database password. I'm going to leave this for the sake of the tutorial, but you definitely want to change this if you're going to put this into production. Beyond that, you also want to scroll down here to Redis and change this as well, just to make sure that everything there is configured appropriately. And basically everything else down here is fairly standard stuff that you shouldn't need to mess with too awful much. So we can do Control-O and then Control-Enter and Control-X. So our next step would actually be to run Docker Compose up-D to start the process of deploying the container. But one thing we do want to make sure that we do first is set permissions on the .env file to be 666. So what we're going to do is before here, we'll do chmod 666 space .env, like so. That way it'll have the appropriate read and write permissions for the container to go in and make the changes it needs to make to the setup for everything to start up appropriately. So once we've done that, we can just do Docker Compose up-D, like so. It'll go through the download process for all of the containers that it needs, and then it will create the containers here like it's doing now. So the next thing we want to do is actually generate that key that we talked about earlier that we would deal with later. Well, now it's later. So what we want to do first, though, is come over to here. We're going to refresh our portainer just to make sure that we've got the right application name. So since we do, what we can do is run Basically, we can run docker exec LinkAce app_1, and basically it's just going to generate a key for us. That's all it's doing. It's just kind of an encryption key. So then I was able to come over to here and click this. So in the following steps, you'll use LinkAce to be ready. So we're going to check that all of the requirements are met. We're going to set up the database, make sure the connection is successful, and then we're going to create a user account. So we're going to check permissions. And all of this is correct. Now, if we hadn't modified the permissions of the .env file to 666, this would have been a red check mark. We wouldn't have been able to do anything. So that's why we did what we did there. And then we can go ahead and click on continue. All of this should be fine. We'll click configure. Okay, so now we've created our database. We've got all of our stuff set up for that. So now let's go ahead and create a user account, and then add techrootusers.com. And then create an account and go to the dashboard. And here we are, we're all logged in, we're set up and ready to go. And now, of course, if you wanted to, my first step would be go to settings, scroll down and permanently do that. Oh, so much better. So there is how to set up LinkAce in Docker with a fairly straightforward setup. I know that this involves a few different things we haven't necessarily done in the past as far as generating keys. We've done that a couple of times, but basically that's the process of setting up LinkAce. This is kind of a cool little project where you can save and or share links with other people pretty quickly and easily, and have an online dashboard repository of all of your important URLs that you're going to access. Maybe you don't want to synchronize your phone and your computer or whatever. There's lots of different use cases for something like this, and I think this is a very cool little project. So hopefully you found the video helpful. If you did, do me a favor, give the video a thumbs up. Really would appreciate that. Also, just because we're getting to the end of the year, there's some just some quick comments that I wanted to make. Like I've mentioned before, I will be getting rid of channel memberships as of the end of December of this year. That's 2021 for those of you watching this possibly in the future. There will be other ways that you can support the channel. Those will be linked in the description down below, whether it's Coffee, PayPal, I've added Bitcoin, Patreon, all kinds of different ways you can support the channel if you want to do that. Also, speaking of Patreon and even channel members up to this point, I want to thank you guys so much for your continued support. I really do appreciate the month after month support that you guys have given. It really does help me pay the bills and keep things going. So thank you guys very much for that. But I think with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So as always, thanks for your time. I always appreciate your support. And I'll talk to you in the next video.